So you're here because you want to get what really makes high-end audio tick in this streaming age, yeah? You want to understand how we go from just, easy access music to something that genuinely grabs you.
Right.
So let's just jump right in. Beyond the convenience, the endless tracks.
Yeah.
What's the actual secret sauce for amazing stream sound?
That really is the question, isn't it? And today we're going to try and answer that by taking a deep dive into Wattson Audio.
Wattson Audio, the Swiss brand.
Exactly. They're making some serious waves in high-performance streaming.
Yeah, I've heard the name, and we've pulled together quite a bit of info here. There's news about an acquisition, some useful terminology guides, product details, their design thinking.
It gives us a pretty comprehensive picture, I think.
For sure. So our mission today is basically to pull out the really key stuff, the things that show what makes Wattson Audio, well, different in this crowded digital music scene. Okay, let's unpack this. And it looks like where they come from is pretty important.
Absolutely. Wattson Audio is based in Preveranges. It's right on Lake Geneva in Switzerland.
Switzerland. Okay, that immediately says something, doesn't it?
It brings a certain reputation to mind, yeah. Precision, craftsmanship.
Meticulous engineering, quality. It's almost a stereotype, but our sources suggest it's genuinely core to Wattson Audio. They actually talk about this Swiss heritage influencing their whole ethos. Let's get into their core ideas. Because, most people think streaming equals convenience, click and play.
Right, millions of songs.
But Wattson seems to be aiming for something, well, deeper.
That's a really key point. For them, it's not just about easy access. Their focus, according to everything we've seen, is preserving the soul of the performance.
The soul of the performance. What does that mean in practical terms?
It means making sure the artist's emotion, their intention, doesn't get lost in the digital translation. And that comes down to specific engineering choices. Like they talk a lot about minimizing jitter in their digital to analog converters.
Jitter. That's like timing errors, right?
Precisely. Tiny timing variations that can smear the sound and, crucially, mess with the subtle cues that convey feeling in music.
Okay, so they're fighting against that digital blurriness to keep the emotion intact. And I noticed they call their devices precision-built instruments, not just boxes or gadgets.
Yeah, that language is deliberate, I think. It signals a different level of care, doesn't it? More like crafting a musical instrument than just assembling electronics.
It definitely shifts the perspective.
And they also emphasize this idea of surface simplicity, hiding, real sophistication underneath.
So, not flashy, but complex where it counts.
Kind of. It's not about bombarding you with features. It's about making the path for the music as pure as possible.
And a huge part of that path, as you mentioned, is the digital to analog converter. So that's important for you listening. Why is this component so critical for Wattson?
Okay, so the digital to analog converter. Think of it as the translator. Your digital music file is like a series of numbers, snapshots of the sound. The digital to analog converter's job is to turn those numbers back into a smooth, continuous sound wave that your ears understand. But, and this is the crucial bit, not all translators are equally fluent.
Okay. Some are better than others.
Exactly. Wattson really engineers theirs focusing on, number one, that timing accuracy we mentioned, nailing the rhythm, minimizing jitter. And number two, signal purity, keeping noise and distortion out.
So avoiding those timing blips and keeping the signal clean.
Yeah. Because jitter is like those snapshots being slightly off time. It just blurs the picture. Their aim is a sound that feels, well, natural, organic. Emotionally real, not cold or digital sounding.
Got it. It's about the quality of the translation, protecting the original message. Okay, let's look at their actual products. This is where the philosophy meets the metal, right? They have a few key models, starting with the Emerson Digital.
Right, the Emerson Digital. This one's pretty specific. It's for someone who already has a really good digital to analog converter they love.
Okay, so it doesn't do the conversion itself.
Nope. It's a pure network bridge. Its only job is to grab the music stream from your network, your Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and hand it off perfectly to your external digital to analog converter.
How does it hand it off?
Through standard digital outputs, and it handles some serious high-resolution files.
Okay. Then there's the Emerson Analog. The name suggests a difference.
It does. The Emerson Analog takes that same network bridge foundation, but adds its own built-in high-quality digital to analog converter.
So it's an all-in-one streamer and converter.
Exactly. It makes for a really simple, minimalist setup. You can plug it straight into an amplifier or even directly into active speakers, fewer boxes, cleaner signal path.
Right. A complete streaming source. Now moving up the line, We hit the Madison. Sounds a bit more serious.
Yeah, the Madison is positioned as their, quote, no-compromise streaming device. It's a step up in several ways.
Like what?
It's got a fully discrete analog output stage built from individual parts, not integrated chips, for potentially lower noise and distortion.
Okay. Discrete components. What else?
It uses a very, very precise master clock. It's actually oven-controlled, meaning kept at a constant temperature for maximum stability. That helps enormously with timing accuracy.
Wow, an oven for the clock.
Yeah, it's serious stuff. And the digital to analog converter section itself is designed for what they call absolute sonic transparency. Plus, it handles even higher resolutions DSD256 as well.
So this is aimed at someone who really wants the absolute peak of digital playback.
That's the idea, yes.
And then there's one more, the Madison LE Lounge Edition.
The Madison LE, yeah, this is positioned as the ultimate expression. It's hand-built with components selected for even tighter tolerances.
So, like, the best of the best parts?
Kind of. And crucially, the Madison LE uses a specific external power supply made by Wattson Audio just for the LE model.
Ah, the external power supply. That brings us neatly to something Wattson emphasizes for all their gear, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why the external box?
Right. It's a really important part of their design philosophy. The basic reason is isolation.
Isolating what from what?
Isolating the sensitive audio circuits inside the streamer from the electrical noise generated by the power supply itself. Even a well-designed power supply creates some level of noise ripple interference just by doing its job.
Okay, and that noise is bad for the sound, even if you can't hear it as, like, a hum.
Exactly. It's often subtle, but it can smear fine details in the music. It can sort of flatten the dynamics, the louds and softs. And ultimately, it can just make the music feel less alive, less emotionally engaging.
It's like background static you don't consciously notice, but it's degrading the signal.
That's a good way to put it. Like trying to appreciate a subtle painting under flickering fluorescent lights versus clean gallery lighting.
So by moving the power supply outside the main audio box into its own separate shielded enclosure, what's the benefit we actually hear?
You lower what engineers call the noise floor inside the audio component, dramatically sometimes.
Okay.
This lets the music emerge from a much darker, quieter background. And that's when you start hearing the really subtle stuff, the decay of a cymbal, the texture of a cello bow, the little spatial cues that tell you where instruments are.
So more detail, more realism.
More realism, more nuance. It's about letting the performance come through without that layer of electrical haze.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, another maybe counterintuitive design choice they make.
Mm-hmm.
No screens on their devices.
Mm.
In today's world, that feels deliberate.
Oh, it's absolutely deliberate. And it ties back to that same goal, reducing noise.
The screens create noise.
Even small screens, especially the touchscreens or OLED panels common now, are constantly refreshing their image, right?
Yeah.
That process generates electromagnetic interference, EMI, and just general electrical noise, high-frequency stuff. And that noise can easily get coupled into the sensitive audio circuits nearby.
Like how sometimes you hear buzzing from a speaker if your phone is too close.
Exactly like that, yeah. It's the same principle, just happening inside the component itself.
So by just taking the screen out entirely.
They remove a significant source of internal interference. They create a, let's say, simpler, purer environment just for the music signals.
And what does that do for the sound specifically?
Well, the claimed benefits tie back to what we've been discussing. Better timing accuracy because there's less high-frequency noise messing with the digital clocks.
Okay.
More stable imaging, a clearer soundstage. Richer textures because those low-level details aren't being masked. And ultimately, they argue a more natural, effortless connection to the emotion in the music.
So it's really about prioritizing sonic purity above everything else.
That seems to be the philosophy, yes. Control happens via an app, but the box itself is kept as electrically quiet as possible.
Interesting. One last point from our sources, the Canadian connection. Phonographe is their distributor up here. And it mentions Phonographe specializes in handcrafted gear. Does that tell us anything more?
I think it does, yeah. Choosing a distributor that specifically focuses on handcrafted, high-quality, maybe even slightly artisanal audio gear, it reinforces that Wattson sees themselves in that same light.
Right.
It suggests they're targeting listeners who appreciate that level of detail, that craftsmanship, not just specs on a page. It aligns with their whole philosophy.
It all seems very consistent. Okay, so we've done a pretty thorough deep dive here. We looked at the Swiss roots, their core idea about the soul of the music, the critical digital to analog converters, and these key Design choices, external power, no screens. What's a big takeaway for you listening at home?
I think the core message is that Wattson Audio represents this really interesting blend. You've got the Swiss precision, that meticulous engineering, combined with a very deep focus on what makes digital audio sound musically satisfying, not just technically correct. Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe something for you to ponder. In a world that's just saturated with digital convenience, easy access, everything, how does this kind of deliberate, focused engineering specifically for emotional impact, how does that change our relationship with the music we listen to?
That's a good question.
Maybe thinking about why Wattson makes these choices could give you some ideas about your own listening, how to connect more deeply with the music that, matters to you.